This is a No Surf Music, Burning River Fireside Chat.
With guests Jim Avett and David and Valerie Mayfield.
I'm your host, Jason D. Diesel HAMAD. For the best in Americana, alt country, indie rock, and more, point your browser to nosurfmusic.com.
And this is another edition of No Surf Music's Burning River Fireside Chats. This is your host, Jason D. Diesel HAMAD, and we're coming to you again from the Honky Tonk House in Streetsboro, Ohio. And we have a special edition today with a couple of different guests. First of all is Jim Avett. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing fine. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. And then the Mayfields, David and Valerie. How are you folks doing?
Pretty good.
Nice to be here.
Thank you. Well, it's nice to have you guys. And you're doing a show together tonight here at the Honky Tonk House, and also one tomorrow at the Beachland Tavern. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's
Okay.
correct.
And
Tonight.
well, you never know.
Yeah. That's the plan.
Scheduling gets strange sometimes, right? But if those names sound familiar to any of our listeners, but maybe just a little bit off, you may know some of their sons and daughters from their musical careers as well. Of course, Mr. Avett is the father of both Scott and Seth, the Avett brothers. And the Mayfields also have a couple of musical children, Jessica and David. Jessica records under her own name, and David is under the Mayfield Parade. Is that correct? The David Mayfield Parade.
Yep.
So, if you've heard them or heard any of their the great music of Mr. Avett or the Mayfields themselves, we kind of wanted to sit down and get them together and sort of talk about both their musical careers and how they got their children started into it. So first of all, one of the things that I find interesting about you folks is that none of you have really, or at least certainly currently, been what you might call professional musicians. Which I think is actually pretty cool because you've lived lives outside of music. Mr. Avett, I know that you had a long career as in the welding business. Is that correct?
That's right. I had a living to make to feed the rest of them. Music around us was always around the house.
Mm-hmm.
My lead guitarist said a couple of months ago, we were sitting talking, he said, there's not a day that goes by that we haven't got music in the house. I said, that's right. He said, most people aren't like that. And I said, you're kidding. But that's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Music for us is just, it's sort of like eating 3 meals a day. If it's normal, we'll have 3 meals a day and we'll have music in the house. My mom and dad thought to be a well-rounded person. My brothers and sisters needed to be able to play. We didn't need to be able to play well. We needed to be able to play and to understand music and what some of the things that music can do for you as far as the way that it fits together. Music can be sort of like playing chess. You can play it like checkers, or you can really delve into it, and you can go as far and as complicated as you possibly can go. And music is the same way. For me, I don't know about the Mayfield, but for me, I always was picking, always. Usually on the front porch, maybe in a little band, but always picking. But it was a hobby. It was not something that you made a living at. It wasn't something that you necessarily took out in front of other people. It was something that I got a lot of pleasure out of.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as far as you guys go, the Mayfields always sort of had a family band going. Is that correct? And the name of that was One Way Rider. Is that true?
Yes.
So how did that get started? Was that something you started to do when you got together, or have you always been involved in music?
We've always been involved in music. We met at a bluegrass festival.
Right.
Okay.
And I was in a band, and
I grew up in a family band
she
myself.
grew up in a family band. Her brother was in a band there, and she came to see her brother, and we met there.
Matter of fact, my father warned me that night. He said if I
Yeah.
was going to marry a musician, he said, well then, you know what you're getting into. I never dreamed, though, that it would go as far as it did, though, and I'm really glad it did.
Okay.
So we got married, and then we had our babies, and then we played in a couple bands and this and that, and I worked. You have to make a living. And then we started One Way Rider when the kids were really young.
And that's all we
it was
did
a country
for them.
band, and we played. That was when the line dancing was big.
Okay.
And we played 5-6 nights a week in country bars for the line dancers, and we were pretty popular band. We were on the radio a lot, and we were professional musicians, but we weren't big time, big dollar.
We were just trying to
We
hang
were doing
on.
it for a
Gotcha.
living, and I was working part-time in machine shops and what I had to do. And then David, when he was about 12 or 13, he became very interested. And we started One Way Rider with him, and we went to bluegrass because we did not want to take the kids in the bars
Gotcha.
4 nights and travel around doing the bar scene. So we went back to our roots, which is bluegrass, and been bluegrass since then.
Okay.
We had them both in homeschooling so that we could travel a lot, because being in a family band, we found that the school system didn't go along with us taking them in and out of school, and we had contracted gigs. And we're like, well, we need to make that paycheck, so they have to go. And they, with Jessica especially, she was 8 years old. And, pretty much packed up her little bedroom, and we bought an old bus in Streetsville, wasn't it? Around here somewhere? Close by.
Macedonia.
Well, and then off of a lady that this gentleman had bought the bus off of another bluegrass band, and it found out that it was Bill Monroe's old bus, and we didn't know. And we took off to Nashville, sold everything we had, and put the kids in the old 1957 Flex bus and took off down the road. What a ride it was. So, we just did what we had to do, and that's what the kids wanted to do. They wanted to play music. It was like the most important thing, and we had maybe 2 or 3 different types of music playing in the house all the time, or on the bus, or it was just never stopped. It was still kind of like that today, I think.
Okay. So I guess for your kids especially, that must have been an interesting time, just driving around the country nonstop and, sort of never really having a real home for any length of time and doing anything.
Wherever we pulled up the bus and let off the air brakes, we would say, we're home.
Yeah. David was an amazing musician at an early age, and when he first learned to play, we'd take him to a bluegrass festival. He would get up on stage with every band at these festivals. He'd play guitar with one band, he'd play bass with another band, he'd play mandolin. He learned, he jammed all night. We used to have to pry an instrument out of his hand to make him go to bed.
Okay.
He was just so into it.
Well, it's good to have children who are really interested in something, especially when you're interested in it too, right?
Yeah, that was his homeschooling. He wanted to learn everything he could about music, and he did.
Yes. Well, he's become very accomplished for
and
sure.
Another story, we made our first One Way Rider CD, and David was 13, and we were going in the studio. Well, I was working in a machine shop during that period, and I told David we need a record producer. He's 13 years old. I said, you need to learn how to do this. And so he went to the library, brought home a stack of books about being a record producer, and he produced our first record when he was 13. Now he's produced how many do you think? 500?
I don't know.
He's a Grammy-nominated record producer now.
Yeah.
It all started there,
Yes.
right?
He's produced our CD.
Very cool. Very cool. So I guess before we get a little bit more into your children, of course, I want to discuss what you guys are all up to musically. But also, Mr. Avey, you touched on something interesting about how you got into music, which I think it will be a good way to transition. You mentioned your father was the one that pushed you, and he was a minister.
My mother was a concert pianist until she married my daddy, and then she became a church organist.
Okay.
Which is an unpaid position, by the way. But for 40 years, she was a church organist at every church we went to. Each of us, my brother and sister, both older, we all started with piano because piano is a really good place to start. Little fingers, unless you got a really small instrument, don't fit a big guitar, and they can get disgusted just like anything else. If you're not successful with it, you don't like it, and if you get unsuccessful with the first guitar you pick up, you're going to put it down and not pick it up again. So we all started with piano around 6 or 7 years old, and it took 3 years of piano and then 4 years of violin. And it's hard for me to give up formal training in violin and turn it into a fiddle. I got a guitar when I was 13, and been trying to learn to play it ever since. It's been a challenge. I never had a lesson. I grew up in the mountains of North Carolina, and the way you learn how to do it is watch and do. I wasn't. At the time I was learning, Hank Williams had been dead less than 10 years, so I learned a lot of his stuff. Went back, didn't grow up so far from Bristol, Tennessee, in the Bristol Sessions,
of course,
and the Carter family, and the Jimmy Rogers and those characters. I grew up listening to a lot of that. I grew up listening to a lot of gospel, and everybody my age who is worth anything, almost everybody learned singing gospel. And that, from there on, I like to hear every string. I don't like to beat the guitar up. I like to pick every string. I like for every string to be heard. And not that me playing, you hear every string, certainly not, but I try for that. I strive for that. And I like stories. I like songs that have a story to them or a moral to them or something such as that. And that's where my drive comes from, and that's the drive that I go to.
Okay.
So some of my heroes are Tom T. Hall and Merle Haggard and some really, really good writers. Scott said somewhere along the line at an interview, he said, Daddy gave up a career in music so we could have one. It's not really true. If I'd had one, it wouldn't have been much. And I'd have had to come in. I'd have had to go to Nashville when some really good guys were getting there. And I'm not sure how that would have all worked out. But anyway, that's where I came from.
Okay. And moving back to the Mayfields, then, sort of the same thing. I mean, you mentioned that you had been in bands, before you met, and then you told us a little bit about after you met. But how did you sort of get into music originally yourselves? Was it through your own families, or what were your major influences?
Well, I was raised in a bluegrass band, and my brother played the 5-string banjo, and my dad played guitar. My mother pretty much managed us, although she did do some organ playing, but she never played on stage formally. And my dad booked us 3 or 4 nights a week, and I think I started at 8 years old also. And we had found out that we even played a few places when we were kids, when we crossed paths, but we didn't know it.
Oh, yeah?
So we realized that our shows at Strand Theater.
Might have been a good thing.
Yeah, I know. And, I thought everyone did this. Kind of like you said that too, didn't you, Jim? And I thought everyone sang and played music in their family. I didn't know it was, something.
Normal way of doing
Right.
business, yeah.
And when I was in the 4th grade school, my teacher used to she just want to quit having class, and she'd say, let's take Valerie downstairs and I'll play the piano and she could sing us one of those old Loretta Lynn songs, And I go, okay. And I just was always singing and playing and pretty much, and I just never, people ask if we had our children, if we, made them practice a lot or anything like that. I said, no, it wasn't like that at all. It just happened, we just grew up and kept playing music. And how did you get started?
Well, my dad and mom don't play music at all, but my grandparents played. My grandmother played the fiddle, my grandfather played the guitar and a harmonica, and my uncles had guitars and mandolins and fiddles, and we played for square dances every Friday and Saturday night in Reedstown, West Virginia. Reedsville, West Virginia.
Okay.
And I learned just playing guitar and bass and mandolin, whatever, for the square dances. And one time a guy came to the square dance with a 5-string banjo, and it blew me away. And from then on, I started searching out bluegrass music.
Okay.
And so that's what basically how I got started. So.
Okay. Well, I find it interesting that you guys are saying that to you, sort of the musical family is just a way of life, and you kind of think that that's the way it is with everybody. And it kind of brings to mind, quote, I think the guy's name was Donahue, the old talk show host back from the 80s.
Yeah.
I remember him saying once how his child once went over to a friend's house, and saw that he was on the television and said, "What's my daddy doing on your television?" Because the kid just thought that everybody's parents were on their own television. It's kind of the same way, I think, when you grow up with that. What's normal in your family is, normal for you. But
Get asked a lot, or used to get asked a lot, aren't you nervous before you go on? And that went away a long time ago.
Yeah.
A long time ago, because this is the normal way of doing business. I mean, if you do something well enough that others are interested, then there's no reason to be nervous about it.
We're the most comfortable, I think, on stage.
Yeah.
It seems pretty much no matter when we do our other jobs outside of music, it seems like my heart is always calling me back. It's not a point of being rich or famous. It's a point of that's where I'm happy.
The real problem
wanna
with
do.
folks is they're afraid to make a mistake.
Right.
Hell, if we make a mistake, we just made a mistake. If you're trying to do something, you're going to make some mistakes. You may have this song down absolutely perfect,
Yeah.
but the next one, you may flub up 3 or 4 words. Most of the time, there's not anybody out there that's going to know it.
By
But
the way, I
most
say perfect
people-
at home.
Most people, yeah. Well, I'm speaking for myself. I'm not you, Valerie.
But not on stage. I always. I'm kidding.
It really is not. It really is not. The mistakes you make on stage are made just through the effort. That's all. And they don't really bother. I know Seth. I saw him on stage one night, and he forgot a line, and they just stopped, and he laughed. He said, "I just forgot it." And he turned to the band and said, "Let's try it again."
That's what the audience loves, though. They like to see.
This is as honest as it gets, and they learn that at the house. If you make an effort at something, you're going to make some mistakes. You hope that the more effort you make at it, the fewer mistakes you'll make. But that's not always true. That's not always true.
Well, one of my favorite musicians, Todd Snyder, saw him play once, and he was playing a Robert Earl Keen song, and he made a few flubs in it, and he got to the end of it and he said, "I always say that if I change something, that's just an edit, and I'm doing it on the fly, but that was Robert Earl's song, so I can't say that this time."
This is the good part of my gig tonight will be the part I will play probably 4 or 5 of my own songs. The good part of doing your own song, you can't make a mistake. You just say, I wrote it that way. I may not sound right, but I wrote it that way. But you can always get out of that. And the tough part of tonight, if my lead guitarist doesn't show up, it's hard to blame the mistakes on anybody when you're the only one up there.
That's why I don't do solos.
There you go. There you go.
All right. Well, it sounds like all of you sort of grew up in the folk tradition, and you passed that along to your kids. And you discussed how that happened a little bit. But I want to get a little bit deeper into that, I guess, because, like we said, these days, that sort of family dynamic is not necessarily all that normal, but it's the only place that I see really that the folk tradition still survives, the passing from place to place. And like you said, Mr. Avett, you learn stuff from seeing it. It's a lot different from learning it from the radio.
What they grow up with is what they're going to come home to sooner or later. Kids, the reason old people hate young people is because they have so much energy, okay? And there is a time when they are going to just play their instruments as loud as they can and move as fast as they can. And it is perplexing to older folks. And you wish that they would appreciate each individual stroke. But that's yet to come. That's yet to come. Because it is an evolving thing. Music, like anything else, any part of your life. You're not the same as you were 10 years ago, or 5 years ago, or last year.
That's true.
And for a musician, it changes. And a lot of people, with the Avett brothers, a lot of people, I say a lot of people, not necessarily a lot of people, there have been a lot of people that have seen the changes made in the band. But this happened with everybody, and nobody asked for certain bands to leave. They left on their own. It happened with the Beatles, it happened with Bob Dylan, and if you are getting bigger, you're going to lose some of your fan base, you're going to add some up. So it has to be. It has to be. There has to be some changing in it. What you do is you try to give them the tools when they're little. Go on your own. There's no right or wrong way of doing this. There is your way. And if your way, I told the boys early on, if what you write satisfies an entertainment gig for people, they will come to see you. And if it doesn't, we'll just make music on the front porch and we'll entertain ourselves. Just do the best you can at what you want to do. This isn't rocket science. You have to give them the tools to go with. But then it's time for them to go out there and do it on their own. And that's what I was telling you. I don't speak for anybody but me. I would never speak for them because their world is a different world than my world.
Right.
I understand old guy things. I understand music in the 50s and 60s. I understand that I understand music before that. But I understand that music, and I understand the structure of it. I understand the reasoning behind it. But in a matter of evolution, you have to turn loose of some of this to go on. You don't turn loose the core. You still have the machines that do it. You still have the core idea of it. But it changes. That's as it should be.
Well, I think one of those big changes that kind of sets your families apart from a lot is, sort of what we were saying, most families don't have that dynamic, and most new musicians don't learn the same way that you guys did from picking it up from other people. I think one of my all-time favorites is Woody Guthrie. And I think he might have been the very first person who sort of picked more of his stuff up from the radio than anyone else, because he heard the Carter Family. You were talking about the Bristol sessions. He heard the Carter Family, and that's where he got his whole musical idea from, and he got started. So I think most people who are like my age, we learn almost all of our music not through the local community and seeing people play, but going on the computer and downloading a bunch of songs and stuff. So as you said, Mr. Avett, things are changing, but do you really feel that gave your sons a better base, being able to learn directly like that? Or
There's no doubt. Around our house, everybody was playing. Everybody, from Beethoven to Bo Diddley to Bob Dylan. And there's no good and bad music. There's some that I can take a little bit more of than others, but that's me. And there's some that you can take more of than others. But there's no bad music. It's all good. Now you've got to put together good music with entertainment, and that to get it out. You say that you learned most of yours off the web, and that's true. There are thousands, literally thousands of songs, and I will do tonight probably 10 or 12 or 15 of them that are old songs that nobody here has heard or hasn't heard in a long, long time. And they're still good songs. They're great songs, and there are thousands of them, but you don't know where to go to look. They're in there, but you don't know where to look.
hopefully I do better than some people, but that's kind of what I do.
Yeah. But
no, I totally know what you mean.
The garden variety person, if you told them that some of the best harmony was made by the Fleetwoods, was made by the Louvin brothers, was made by Bill Monroe, some of the Ernest Tubb, made some really great harmony. But if those names you haven't heard, you're not going to carry those treasures with you, and you can't build on a base if you don't know that base.
Right.
And that's what, at our house, that's what I try to give each of our children. I get asked, aren't you proud of your kids? I'm proud of the kids when they help me with the damn hay, okay? They're not around. They're not around a lot anymore to help with the hay, but when they are around, they did help me this summer. And they die when they're not there to get in on that work ethic. But that's one of the things that hadn't even been mentioned here, is how much you work at it.
Right.
How much you absolutely have to work at it. To get better at anything, you got to practice. It makes any difference what it is. You practice driving, you practice your trade, you practice, and you practice, and you practice until you get to be the best that you can be. Now, whether that's good enough or not, I don't know. I can never be a really good basketball player because my mom and dad aren't 7 feet tall. And I try to be a good basketball player, but I'm really pretty terrible. But I'm at ease with that because I can do some other things. I can grow tomatoes, and I know a lot about animals. I ain't scared of a snake. I can fix my tractor. And I'm happy enough with that, and I don't have to play basketball. But being satisfied with the tools you've got to make you the best that you can be, that's the trick. The good thing about our children is that they do things that they want to do to make a living. They're happy in their jobs. 95% of the people are not happy in their job. They feel like they're not paid enough, they're put upon, they're not appreciated, whatever.
Now I have to say, I really like your kids, Jim. And I had the opportunity to go on tour with them a few times with Jesse, because Jesse used to tour with the Avett Brothers, and David did shows with the Avett Brothers. So I went on an East Coast tour. And Scott and Seth are both just the nicest, like family. And when the kids go on tour with them, I feel so at ease because I know they're going to be under a good influence, and they're family.
I appreciate it.
And I really enjoyed my time.
I expect no less out of them. I don't expect any less out of any of the kids.
And the whole band, as a matter of fact, because when we were at Appalachian Uprising, Dave and I, we not only played the shows, and we had our band booked there, our kids were booked there, and Jesse was booked there. They hire us all separately, and then they hire us all together. And we were also the stage managers. And when the Avetts took the stage, I had backed up my little Chevy S10 truck to have them jump on it because the stage had kind of a rush going after they performed, and I said, come here boys, then they jumped in the back of the truck, and we hightailed it out of there, like to save them. And
down
I thought,
the road you go.
They're down to earth, and I love that, and the kids, they're good friends with them, and I'm very happy that, and that's why, and I'm very happy that now we have a good friend with Jim and Susie,
Yeah.
of that common ground. I'm really happy about that.
There you go. So I want to touch on something that you said again there, Mr. Avett, which was that so few people really get to do something that they love, as their work. And like we said, you spent 35 years, I believe it is, running your own company, and then later in life you turned back to music.
I never turned away from it. I just didn't have time for it.
Okay, we'll say more professionally, I guess, turned back to music.
Professional means you're getting paid for it, I suppose. So yeah. I was in bands, a lot of bands. I think I got kicked out of most of the bands I was in. That's the reason I don't have a band, is because you can't depend on everybody to show up.
That's true.
And when
Very
you have
true.
a 4-piece band and one says, I can't make it tonight, I'm going down to do something else, this is 25% of your product is gone. And I got tired of that, being part of it, and I just assumed do it on my own. And it works out a lot better that way. But music is just common stuff. It's just common stuff. I don't see it as being, I know that everybody doesn't do it. Susie couldn't carry a tune in a sack if you gave it to her, but she does so many other things well. And she is our greatest fan. And when things are not exactly right, when you have a bad show, and everybody gets a bad show, and sometimes you get a bunch of bad shows, she's always there to say, well, you did this right, you did that right, next time you get them. You can live on that.
I guess that's helpful.
Oh yeah.
It's always good to have a booster, right?
She's been around 45 years now. Yeah, we've been married for 45 years.
Nice. Well,
I think musicians need that too, because some people that I know when we perform, we're out there because we thought you wanted us. You wanted to hear us.
Really?
We weren't really forced. We didn't really want to force our music on you, but someone says, "Hey, we like that song. Sing us another one." And next thing you know, you're singing more and more, and you're out there and you're booking yourself. And and the whole bottom line is, we just want to entertain you. We just want to have you go home with a good feeling that you.
I just want to come out tonight and share some songs that if I'm not here tonight, I'm going to tell a couple of stories. That if I don't tell you these stories, you're never going to hear them. Because I'm the only one you're going to get them from. I'm the only one that's going to sing these songs. So I really, that's a lot of fun. That's a lot of fun to do with somebody or for somebody. It's sort of giving it back. It's sort of giving it back.
It's a good feeling to know that you made some people happy and
You're going to make some unhappy, but
yeah, that's
well.
true. I just let that, you have to let that roll off. You
Oh,
do,
yeah.
you know, because there are some critics out there.
Well, the difference between playing music and working a job is you work in a machine shop and you make a part on a lathe, and there it is. It's a beautiful part. And you put a whole day into making it. You don't hear any applause. You don't hear any good job, nothing, you know. But you run on a stage, you play a good song, people clap and cheer for it. So there's a big
That's
difference.
kind of uplifting, you know.
The thing about the machine shop, though, is the pay is regular.
The pay is regular.
You don't
yes.
always get
there's
that as a musician.
there's that side to look at. Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
But you have to get up at 5 o'clock every morning, and
well, that's true.
And
Then
yeah.
you're too tired to go play music, you know, and back again to what you really love doing versus to how much money you're making. Sometimes what you love doing wins out.
and I've noticed that no matter how many hours I work, no matter how much money I make, somebody always going to get it. Never enough. I mean,
When I made $2 an hour, I spent it. When
Yeah.
I made 20 an hour, I spent
Yeah,
it. A
it's
couple of times
always-
I made 200 an hour, I spent every bit of it. I ain't got a damn thing left. It's not, you know.
It's all gone,
And that's
so-
okay. I think people rise to the occasion and do that. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that there's a song there. I think, you know, it's sort of like that housewife right over there. I don't know who she is, but I know that her day today, she rose to the occasion and made what wasn't a big deal a really big deal. And to her, her problems are as big as the president's problems are. We rise to the occasion. We spend what we make. I don't care. You know, you say, well, if I could just make 50 cents more an hour, you know, everything would be, you know, wonderful the rest of my life.
No.
That's a lie. About a week later, you're going to want another 50 cents.
Yeah.
You got to learn, you know, to stay within the bounds or change things. And if it gets so bad you need to change things, go change them. You're the only one holding yourself back. Since you and I are not going to know each other very long, I think if you're smart, you don't need to tell people you're smart. I think you ought to show them. I've got a master's degree in psychology, but I chose to run a welding shop. We built bridges up and down the East Coast. Nobody ever heard of us. We made good money at it. Of course, we spent an awful lot. Well, we spent all of it, as a matter of fact. I hadn't got anything left to show for that, but it was a fun ride. But if I hadn't done that, I needed to go back and hone my skills down to where I could do something that I really like to do for a job. I was absolutely happy. I didn't weld every day. I had guys that were on the crews. I think it's important that the boss be able to do everything from the bottom to the top, and willing also to do everything from the bottom to the top. So I'd run a screw gun or I'd weld. It don't make any difference. And I wanted them to feel the same way. I think that's the secret to being happy about it, is having a boss that will work right along with you.
I'm in supervision.
Be there at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
If he tells you to be there
Yep.
at 4, he needs to be there at 4 too.
I'm in supervision now, and one thing I've always learned is the guys that work for me, I'm always saying, good job, you're doing great, that's a beautiful part. I'm always encouraging them, and I wouldn't ask them to do anything that I wouldn't do.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I'll be
Sure.
right there
Sure.
doing anything. And so I've noticed in my 40-some years as machinist that good places and the bad places. And the good places, the boss will be right next to you with his hands dirty, helping you, whatever needs to be done. So that's true. Same with music. I mean, you can get way above your ratings in music and think you're so big and you got to have everything.
Know a lot of
but-
people like that, huh?
no, I've always done. When I'm at a show and something happens and they want to change my time or something, no big deal.
I love it when people say
And
you're
other
so
people
down to
will
earth. and you're
absolutely
like,
go crazy if they're going to change their time slot or something. I
There's
said,
no question. I'm going to be the worst guitar player here tonight. Probably the worst guitar
I'm
player
running
in
next-
Cleveland.
I'm running pretty close over that
But I'm very,
title.
you know, I'm at ease with that because if I need a hot guitar lick, I look over at Ray and say, "It's your turn," because he doesn't raise tomatoes very well. You know, there's some other things he doesn't do very well, but he plays a really good guitar.
Well, I think I'm also a realtor, but my heart's not in it, and of course the market's gone right now. But it's like I want to play music, and I can't give something 100% because I'm always drifting off. Matter of fact, I had a nice office job for years. Since we've been married for 32 years, I've had maybe 25 jobs. Plus, wanted to be the full-time housewife and mother, and just do it all. I wanted to be super mom, and kill myself doing it on the bus, ironing their clothes and whatever for the shows, and booking all the shows and handling all the contracts. I wanted to do it all, and it takes a lot out of you. But still, I was never happy unless I was more pursuing the music, because that's pretty much knew that I'd be broke and poor, but I still what I wanted to do, because that's what you got to do. What makes you happy too, and if you can, then do it. You can always do what you want to do.
Yeah, music is ups and downs.
Well, I think I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you there, but I think one of the things that ties so many musicians together is at some point they have that rock star dream, but then they start playing music and then they realize, you know what, I'm never going to be the rock star. And your sons, Mr. Avett, certainly have worked out a lot better than anyone could have ever imagined. But
they've handled it a lot better than most do.
But I think if you're doing what you love and you don't care, that's the difference. If you do become a star,
you look at music as a ladder. Okay. Let's say this ladder has 1,000 rungs to it, and let's say you get up 15 rungs. Are you a failure? No, you're not a failure. You did the best you could, considering all the constraints there were. There's one place up at the top. Hank Williams Sr. sat there. Dylan sat there. The Beatles sat there. When Hank Williams was there, a guy that I really like him, and he had the really unfortunate luck of being born at the same time, Bob Wills out of Texas. Just a great picker. But there's only one place at the top. And if you don't make it to the top, are you still a failure? Not exactly. People there are young folks that come to me all the time and say, how can I make it? Be the best you can. Be the best you can. If you get 3 rungs up, you're not a failure. You just didn't, for one reason or another. And it's not necessarily your fault. I'm not looking to blame it on other things. If you have tried and you have done everything that you could to make yourself a better musician, a lot of people don't understand the difference between really good music and really entertaining music. I don't know if this ought to go on the radio or not, but this is my personal opinion. Purple hair and chrome teeth will get you there, but it won't keep you there. If there ain't something more than that.
It's not always about talent.
That's exactly
people rise
right.
to the top
The ones that you're going to hear,
whatsoever.
the ones you're going to hear about, sometimes are the ones with the purple hair and the chrome teeth.
Right. Yeah,
It's not necessarily the most talented people.
Well, again,
This is
with
my-
the exception of all of your children, most times these days it's not. I mean, that's kind of the philosophy of my entire website. So the people listening here will completely get it. I mean,
our children have definitely paid their dues. They've
more
played,
than I wanted them to, you know. I didn't want them to have it so hard.
Well,
but
I think you have to spend an awful lot of time in the back room honing your songs down. And they have got to be, the boys will hold up for a year, a song, or 2 years, looking for the right word, the right three word phrase to say exactly what you're trying to say. It doesn't have to come out today. It doesn't have to come out this week or this year. When you find the right combination, then that's when the song's ready to let go, not before that.
right. Well, I think there are so few people who are willing to put that kind of craftsmanship in today, because it's really, as far as the money-making side of the industry goes, it's the lowest common denominator. You know, the people who buy albums are 14-year-old girls. And so the people who make music the 14-year-old girls like are the ones that make all the money. You know, I mean, nobody thinks
Well,
that Justin Bieber is...
It ain't about money.
Well, no,
It never has been. A singer-songwriter, the whole point in being a singer-songwriter is to affect other people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make any difference if you made a dime at it, or everybody knew who you were, or nobody knew who you were. The whole point is to affect other people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do that, Seth came to me, I don't want to hog this, but to illustrate this, Seth came to me a couple of years ago and he said, Daddy, how are we going to pay you back for all the money you put in this band? I said, we're even. We're even. Don't think about it. He said, I know, but how are we going to pay you back? And I said, you don't owe me anything. If I die tonight, we're even. Don't think that way. He said, one more time, but how are we going to pay you back? I said, if I come to one of your concerts, Susie and I don't know, maybe we make 5 or 6 a year.
Mm-hmm.
And we go to Red Rocks, or we go to, some place that's really good.
Uh-huh.
I told Seth, I said, if you see me at one of your shows, and you look down from the stage and you see me, I won't be looking at you, because I know what you look like, I know what you sound like, and if I want to make music with you, we'll do it on the front porch. You'll see I'm looking out at the crowd, and I'm looking for that girl that's dancing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for that guy who's looking up in the stars, and he's thinking about the music. That's how I get paid back. We're even. We're absolutely even. This is what daddies do. This is the daddy's job,
mm-hmm.
to see that it's carried on. If they were going to be trash men, I wanted them to be the best ones they were.
I said that same
Mm-hmm.
thing.
I wanted, if they want to be a cook, be the best one you possibly can.
I didn't say that.
And that's all. That's all that Susie and I ever wanted.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted
Be happy.
to lift them up and let them be the best that they could be at whatever it was. And if it's the 3rd rung, if it's an 800 rung, or if it's all the way to the top, that's fine. But that's not what we're looking for. We're looking to affect other people's lives.
Right. Well, I think that's a good philosophy that a lot of musicians these days, sort of forget. And I think that's one of the reasons why I like the kind of music that I like, which is, more folk and country and bluegrass oriented stuff, because so many people, just like you guys, are real musicians, and that's what they care about, not so much the
God, have you been in a recording studio? They can tweak you if you're
mm-hmm.
flat. They can tweak you right up. If you're off time, they can tweak you right into time. This gives everybody a chance
mm-hmm.
for stardom. Of course, once you get out live, it's going to be pretty obvious that you ain't in time and you ain't on chord. But anyway,
that's what lip syncing's for.
God, I
Handle
guess.
that one.
I guess. But it's amazing what can be done. When I started, and I would expect I know you, as a bluegrass group, you have had this experience. When I started, I recorded some when I was 19. Mm-hmm. We recorded around an omnidirectional, a bowl mic, a round mic, mm-hmm. that you got in about this close, and if there were 5 of us, we all got in about that close, and you start the song up.
Yep.
And if somebody makes a mistake, you
start
stop.
Yep.
And you start again, and you may play this damn thing 30 times, and you hate it. By the end of the session, you hate that song and hope you never play it again. But it took 30 times to get it, because they couldn't erase. Now, all you got to do is reach up here, pull that word out, and put it in here, and you will never know.
Yep.
And you recorded reel to reel. It was like...
What a splicing
David,
job.
David
Good
would
Lord.
do this. He took a fiddle break on one song and completely engineered a different fiddle break for a different song. That's just the notes from the other song. and put it on a
It's
recording.
disgusting.
It's amazing. It's amazing what they can
Well,
do.
it's a wonder we ever played because what we had was we didn't have the internet. We just, we were just trying to keep a needle working on the record player, and like, oh wow, so we can't listen to that today, Or what I grew up to is what my parents' albums, whatever they happen to have. I don't remember purchasing a lot of new albums,
I have got about 6,000 record albums.
That's a lot of
6,000.
albums.
Yeah.
6,000.
Good collection.
There's a lot of
lot
There's
more than I have.
a lot of those records have got songs on them that won't be reproduced. They will not be brought back up because they were not money makers. That doesn't mean that they were not good songs. It means that they weren't money makers. So they won't be.
It's usually who I listen to.
Yeah,
like my kids, I love
B-sides.
Jimmy Driftwood. I thought I was the only person in the world that would listen to him, and then I catch the kids listening to him, and I go, "You like that?" And yeah, it's good. And Jesse they were recording some of his work, and I go, "That's cool." And then I love Johnny Horton, and none of these people were so, as you say, at the top, right? And I was like, and then my dad had Bill Monroe and Don Reno and Red Smiley, and that was. But again, I thought everyone had those,
Yeah.
We didn't have the access that I am envious today of how the young kids can listen to all that music, and
Well, you could do it too.
take it everywhere they go. We're a little slower at it, but
Right.
we get it.
Well, at the same time, though, I love excuse me. I cannot talk, but I love collecting records myself. I'd much rather listen to vinyl.
Well, bands are all going back making vinyls. That's one of them.
Yeah, and it is great. It does sound a lot better. But like Mr. Avett said, there's so much stuff out there that was so great that it's just never ever going to be transferred and put online or in the MP3 form, just because. Exactly.
It's not a money maker.
Right. Well, my favorite label of all time is Folkways. They've got some just incredible stuff. Yeah, and whether it was Woody Guthrie or Pete Seeger or something, that stuff's all gonna be transferred over and whatever.
I think I recorded on a Folksway album years ago.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, with an artist from Australia called Fiona McDowell.
Yeah.
And I recorded bass and guitar on it. It's probably 30 years ago.
Very cool.
Like
Very
yesterday.
cool. Well, yeah, you see, like that kind of thing. Probably not going to be able to find it on MP3,
I
right?
doubt.
You never know. But so that's one of the things.
This is part of my children's life, is all the technology, and they understand it very well.
That's
Yeah.
ours too.
And I'm glad that they do, but this is not part of my life.
Right.
My life is picking up a guitar and hand tuning it and trying not to make a mistake that will have to be electronically erased. Trying to do something that actually there's some talent here, that sets you aside. It's like a good truck driver. He's got a talent that sets him aside from others. And you can get by with a little less talent, but you're probably going to get in a wreck. You probably are. And it's the same thing in music. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
What the hell do I know?
Well, there is one place where I will stand up for the technology, and this is more of a listener, but also as a musician trying to learn new stuff. There are some technologies like Pandora and like Spotify, and we're not going to get into the debate of how they pay people, but with their ability to match songs that with stuff that you might like, it does open up a lot of doors that, folks like you would have to go out and buy an album from Bill Monroe or whoever it is. And if you never heard that name or never heard somebody play it, you wouldn't know to buy that. Whereas, I can go on Pandora and type in one of my favorite
People
artists.
who like this also like this and this.
Yeah,
and this.
Exactly.
That's a good
and,
idea.
and yeah, so that is one advantage I will say that I think,
I think there's great advantages in technology. Great advantages.
Yeah.
And just not for me. Just not for me. I'm too old to be getting in that race.
I do like Facebook.
Well, there you go.
Because we can live vicariously through it, find out what the children are doing.
It is open doors that would never
Yeah,
be.
relatives and us
I
and
hear-
all of us.
I hear from guys that I was in the Navy with
Right, it's wonderful.
45 years ago.
I also like YouTube.
Yeah.
Well, there's again, you
yeah,
can
I
take
love
lessons.
YouTube.
Wouldn't
You
you
can
love that? If
yeah.
you don't know you want to know how a song goes, and you just Google it, or
Yeah.
somebody has it. It's on YouTube, and it's like
We looked at we learned a song last night off YouTube.
Yeah,
and
we
we
have
played
the
along with
CD
it and-
somewhere. We
yeah.
can find it. We're like,
you can search for something. I like Danny Gatton, guitar player, and he's dead now, and he was my favorite
God, I
guitar
hate
player.
talented people.
And you can search on him and find him on YouTube videos. That just blows me away. What you can find on YouTube.
That
Plus
was really intimidated when I met him, actually, because the dumb thing about it was I wanted to impress him so bad, so I grabbed a guitar and I played a song for him, not knowing that he was probably just, oh my gosh, this fantastic guitar player. He sits there so calmly and smiling at me, and he must have liked me a little, right? And he's like, I play guitar, and I go, and I said, you play guitar? And he goes, yeah, I play a little. And he takes it, and it was like, and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm going,
I was going to say, yeah, he must have loved
I
you, because
played
I've heard
first.
you play a guitar. He loves you a lot right off the bat.
And I said, boy, how guts I have to play first, And then, so, I thought, well, hey, I'm smart enough to know this guy can teach me a lot too, right? So, still learning, still trying. I do something, he still lets me play, so that's okay.
All right. Well, actually, that kind of brings us up to one of the other things I want to talk about, of course, which is what everybody is doing with their own music these days. You guys, do you still play with your children fairly regularly, or is it?
Well, they surprised us last
Saturday.
Saturday, they showed up and performed with us at an ice cream social, which we thought was cute. And and they liked that sort of thing because it wasn't advertised that they'd be there, and so they just pop up, and we didn't know, and so it was a really welcome surprise.
I saw David's tweet about that, actually.
And yeah, he tweeted right before the show,
Right.
though, so it's like, well, he saved himself,
So now they call it a one-way rider reunion.
Yeah, so we're like, okay, we didn't even
So-
know it was happening, and then, but it was nice because after that particular show last week, we did discuss that maybe we'll do maybe a brief tour with the four of us again.
Family, yeah.
A family squeezed in amongst their shows, which I thought was awfully considerate and thoughtful of them, and I like that. And still, Dave and I want to go ahead and give it a shot of really doing some serious bookings for the following year.
Okay.
And just take off with the Dave and Val show, and because it's like, again, that's what we want to do,
Right.
Not punching the time clock too much.
Well, hey, I
Yeah.
mean, whatever lets you do your music still, like you said, even if you have to keep selling some real estate on the side. But-
Right, I find myself singing out to my clients. It's like, and they'll stand there and they'll say, well, hey, this house is empty. It has great acoustics. Sing us another one.
Yeah.
I thought, well, I'm entertaining.
Yeah.
I'm still doing it. I'm like,
You need to start writing songs about the house, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths.
yeah, that's a good idea. There you go. Yeah, but actually, now I'm trying to finish a book. I've been writing a book more about it turned into a scary book about being in these big empty houses and it turned into songs. Some of the things can be pretty frightening out there.
Yeah, dark music is fun too. It worked for Lucinda Williams. It can work for you, right?
Okay.
So are you guys doing any recording these days as a duo, or?
Well, we are going to. We need to work on that. We just did some live videos, which we have those recently, but we need to concentrate on getting a serious duo, a CD, just the two of us. By the way, we would love to have the whole band thing if we could find that right bass player, or whoever that could be there.
He won't show up.
At every show.
Yeah.
We went through that. We had that when
Yeah,
we
I'm
were
sure.
supporting the
If you-
kids,
if you've
and
been in a
Jessica was
band,
in
you've been
diapers.
there.
We were booking. I had the band members that quit their jobs. I mean, their day jobs to play with us. We were working so much back then, and we had Wednesday off. We worked every single day except Wednesday, and they would just take off on vacations, and I'd be standing there under contract with this big gig, thinking, "What? You're not coming?" And
Well, we had to work out with other bands, so if our bass player took off, their bass player would come and play with us. But when their bass player took off, I'd have to go
Right.
and fill in with their band. So we were constantly.
finally, a promoter came up to us and said, I would like to just hire the two of you. And we thought, hey, they'll hire just the
There's
two
an
of
idea,
us?
yeah.
And we thought,
I'll take it.
I'll do it. We know we're both going to be there.
Well, if not, then that requires a divorce attorney, right? So that makes it a lot more difficult. Okay. Well, Mr. Avett, I know you.
We don't play it anymore together. very rarely. Scott leaves the banjo at the house, and if they're going to be down for a couple of weeks or 3 weeks, we might knock off a couple of tunes. But this is sort of like asking a bus driver on his Sunday afternoon off to go for a long ride.
Right.
This is
what
we do every day. So usually we enjoy doing other things, in particular going to flea markets and that kind of thing. We have farm stuff we do. We cut wood together. We handle cows together, that kind of thing.
And of course the hay.
And of course the hay. But as far as making music with them, they will ask, or I will ask them, to listen to a song I've written, to see if it's a little too hard edge or whatever in my older age. I'm probably going to, there's an end to everything. I can see that there will be an end to me picking a guitar. I'm not ready quite yet to give it up. But I think I want to record one more gospel album, and maybe do that with Bonnie. And I've got enough songs to do one more straight up secular thing. And, I'll probably do that.
Okay. So you've got, I believe, 3 albums out now, so that make a total of 5, right? So that's not bad for a latter day career. I wasn't gonna go that far, but no.
I would do that. Yeah.
So I guess when do you plan on doing that? Do you have any firm plans for recording?
In the next 6 months.
Okay. Sounds good. And I'm sorry, I'm really bad with titles, but the one that you've currently got out is Second Chance, correct? Yes. I'm sorry. I really names and titles and things like that.
That's fine.
I'm so bad.
I find myself going. The older you get, the more experiences you have, and I find myself writing songs about people and about. I'm going to do one. I think I'm going to do one tonight, just to try out on this crowd. I haven't quite finished the song. It's not in the polishing mode yet. But I think I want to write one about, there was a guy that was hung for shooting a man for messing with his wife. And pretty good story. And there's a pile of stones over in the pasture. And underneath that pile of stones is a little pile of bones. This man, it happened in 1851. And I wrote a song about it. I think the song's pretty good, but I might be a little hard edge on it, because at the end of the song I say, doesn't a man have a right to defend what's his? And sometimes I wonder, is the right man under those stones? So I don't know. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. But anyway, somebody needs to speak for that man too.
Right.
But those things are always they're always in the process. Always in the process.
Okay, well, hey, play it tonight. I'd love to hear it, for sure.
Right, there's a lot of stories. My parents from Virginia and Kentucky used to tell me of a lot of similar stories to those. That when I wrote Guess's River years ago, when we saw the family band, I thought, I'm just going to write it in one of those songs where it was pretty much the same thing, only it was this time, the woman was cheating and the man was, dying, and we're right, is it the right man that they killed? I don't think they killed the right man, but they told us all these stories, because back then, a lot could go on that people never found out about up in those mountains, and it's a pretty good story. So I'm anxious to hear your song now.
See, you've already got 2 requests.
That will depend on whether Ray gets here or not. Ray's probably going to be late getting here, but
we'll send Dave over there to his master guitar solos.
There you go.
Well, it's hard to go where somebody else is going when they're not sure where they're going either.
Never stopped me before.
Yeah, that's what I'm just going to say. It never stopped him, yeah.
But I do think that sort of murder ballad theme, I guess, if you want to call it that, or sort of also morality tale in there, fits really well with what you write.
Yeah.
I mean, most of your work, besides the gospel stuff, it's really folk music, kind of a feel, right about real people. And, that sets you apart, I think, from a lot of the other musicians out there who are working in the country genre.
think there's a lot of real world stuff that's missing, yeah.
Most of the songs I write are funny, so I don't know
Yeah.
where that puts me. I guess I'm just.
We know.
Well, one's not necessarily better than the other. It's just,
Does that mean my life's a joke, or?
Well,
We didn't say that.
It's true.
if you're happy with it, I'm happy
I'm
with
happy
it.
writing funny
There
songs.
you go. There you go.
But everybody's got their own style, and
Yeah.
it works for them, right? I mean, like I said, one of my favorites is Todd Snyder, and he writes serious stuff. But oh man, when he wants to write something funny,
Right.
nobody
Oh,
to beat him. So
Yeah.
there you go. So I guess we're about at the time when people are going to be showing up here. But before we do, I do want to get at least one little plug in for all of your children once again. And of course, you've already told us what's coming up with you guys, so definitely want to make sure people get out and listen to the Mayfield's record when it does come out, and to Jim Avett's when they come out. But I know the Avett Brothers are releasing a new album in a couple of months now, and it's, again, titles. The Magpie and the Dandelion, is that correct?
I think so, yeah. I just found that out a couple days ago. I knew that they were coming out with another record when the Carpenter came out.
Mm-hmm.
What held it up for 4 or 5 months was that they had 23 or 24 songs finished, picking the right ones. It's not always picking the best ones, it's picking the ones that fit together. So when the Carpenter came out, some other songs that were as good or better than the ones that came out on the Carpenter were left.
Okay.
So that is the fit on the second CD, which is the way that it should be done.
Mm-hmm.
The first one didn't have all the best songs in it. It had the ones that would fit together. And it took, you have 4 people basically voting in this thing. You've got Bob and Scott and Seth, and you've got Rick Rubin.
Mm-hmm.
And these people submit in a pile a list of these 23 or 4 songs, whatever, 10 or 11 that they think ought to make the cut. Well, when you start out with that, it's going to take 3 or 4 months to finally get everybody agreed to, that this is the best fit. That's the story behind the new. I've heard all the songs, and it's not a bad one. It's not a bad one.
Okay. Well, Daddy endorsed it, so you know it can't be. No.
And I have no dog in this fight. If they're bad, I'll tell them, and I'll tell you.
There you go. There you go.
There's no reason to hold back on this.
There's nothing better than truth, right?
You don't get better by lying.
Right. Exactly. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to it, and actually, that kind of reminds me of the way the Beatles did Rubber Soul and Revolver essentially at the same time. It was kind of the same idea. They sort of
God, I hate talented people.
Hey, I think your music is great, so stop saying stuff like that. I have all 3 of your albums, and I like them. So seriously, I mean, you are a terrific writer, and we definitely want folks to let folks know that the Avett Brothers aren't the only talented Avetts out there. So if our listeners do get a chance and you haven't heard Jim Avett's stuff, I highly recommend it. It's definitely terrific. Excuse me. Once again, I can't even talk today. I don't know what it is. And then from the Mayfields, what's Jessica up to first? I guess I should ask.
She's working on
her next CD, and it's
she's working
95% finished. I think they're just working out the details. She has a new record label she's going to put it out on. So.
Okay. And then our son is.
Seth helped with 1 or 2 of those songs.
He probably did.
So,
yeah.
I know he
Seth
came
is
up
on
there.
this one also. Good.
Seth is on
down,
David's.
David,
Yeah.
They're on that one.
David's last CD.
They're all over the place, aren't they?
Yeah.
I know.
I knew they'd come up to Ohio for some reason.
Well, there's no other reason to come to Ohio.
That's a thought. I just now thought of that. We should do something.
Hey, that'd be great.
Yeah. So that we're so busy. We're always listening. I told him. I said I've got to start listening to different music because I'm always in the CD player. I always have my kids in there, because that's the one chance that I can hear it you know, it's not saying that my hearing's going a little as I get older, but yes, it
But-
is. So, and I love this, and I think this is an excellent CD, and I was just singing with Seth, I think, before we pulled in here on this CD here. But they've got 2 new albums coming out and a big heavy season of bookings, so
Yeah.
something to watch for.
Yeah, David has another CD he's ready to record here soon. Good Man Down just came out not too long ago.
Yeah.
And
That was was it April? Or something?
Yeah,
I
and
think it was
Jessica's,
April,
her
yeah.
last one was Tell Me. So that's so,
yeah, and they've
excited,
been doing a lot of other things too that aren't out yet. They've got a couple. I don't even know if I can mention them, but when they do come
Yeah,
out,
we can't
they'll be
mention
good.
Okay. Okay. Well, I have to say, you know, I definitely am looking forward to it because actually, Jessica's very first EP, White Lies, is one of
Yeah.
my favorites.
It's
I
one
mean,
of my
it's mine,
favorites
too.
it's just
also.
terrific, right? I mean, and
I know.
she was like what, 15, 14?
Yeah.
I mean,
I know.
They
The
made that in our
songwriting-
bedroom.
yeah, I heard that.
It was wonderful, and I still love that, and I still play that. I still, a lot of people still, I don't know why they write you and they email you or they expect you to send them these copies that we have all these stacked up around the house. You know, like,
Yeah.
Oh, sure. No, I can't do that. So. But it is one of my favorite also.
Absolutely, and so I'm definitely, like I said, looking forward to the new stuff. That
She's
should
playing
be
a
good.
lot of guitar solos on this one, so this.
Oh, yeah?
will be a
Yeah,
little
Jessica
different.
has really taken off. She doesn't have a lead guitar player. It's a 3-piece band now, and she
Okay.
plays all lead, and she is fantastic.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's really blown us away.
Yeah.
But that's good. I always like to see, you know, them keep growing and keep maturing because, you know, she was very young when she started, so it's like it's nice to see that they're. You hope that maybe I shouldn't have had them play music all the time or just have music around the house all the time, but then I think no, I'm glad I did. You know, that's the only thing that I really knew about growing up, and I wanted to share that experience that I had that growing up. Nothing makes a house more cozier than having that music going all the time, you know.
Okay, well, I think Jim would agree on that one.
Oh, yeah.
With everything
Oh, yeah.
he
Yeah.
said. So definitely, if you guys ever get the chance, I think you were kind of hitting on something there. You know, not only should the Mayfields record a little bit with Jim Avett, but I think some sort of crazy super band Mayfield Avett combination. 2 generations: David, Valerie, Jess, Jim,
What
Seth.
we need to do,
Wow.
what we need to do,
Scott, the whole thing.
If we can get schedules, and this would be a killer.
Getting them
to
all
do.
together at the same time.
Yeah, like for a weekend.
Yeah.
That'd be wonderful.
Either our house, your house, we'll let them know 2 days before it happens, so we won't overdraw either one. I got 60 acres, but if you let it out
I only
more
have
than 2
2,
days
yeah.
before, well, if you let it out, it won't make any difference how many acres you got. If you let it
Yeah.
out enough, there's enough people that would come and really make a mess out of it. But it'd be fun to do. It'd be fun to do.
I'm for it. I'm all
Well,
for
you
it.
guys could have your own music festival just there. You know, you've got like 8
That's
different
actually my
acts.
Dream. That's why I'm
Oh,
thinking,
yeah?
I wanted to, with real estate, that's the one thing I would like to do. I would like to buy enough acreage of land, and I would like to just retire having. I put on enough bluegrass festivals, been on the board of directors for many other festivals, and hired the bands, and so that's what I would like to just do, you know, and then. that'd be
Why don't you just
wonderful.
get an acre and back it up to the National Forest?
There you go.
That works.
Let them have it, right?
Yeah.
Well, I got a spot over in Hudson where I want to put one on one of these days, but
Okay.
we'll discuss that another time.
Okay.
So anyway, I do really want to thank you guys for joining me today.
Certainly.
And I'm definitely looking
Wonderful,
forward to
Diego.
the show tonight. It's been really great.
Don't expect too much. You won't be disappointed.
No.
Good quote right there, yeah.
True, but I've seen you play before. You forget that, so I know exactly what you can do.
Oh, me.
Whether your guitar player shows up or not, we'll see
Yeah,
about that.
yeah.
It'll be just fantastic either way.
Absolutely, as I'm sure will you guys. I'm definitely looking forward to your set as well.
We're just real glad we made it here.
Just happy to be here.
Well, it was a long trek for you, right?
Yes, it was such a long trip.
Exactly. But I'm glad that you made it the whole way. It was kind of like the Iditarod, I suppose, you know, fighting off snow and all that craziness. But really, thanks again for joining us. And once again, cannot recommend any of the Mayfield or the Avett clans highly enough. So all the folks out there in No Surf Land, check them out. This has been another edition of No Surf Music's Burning River Fireside Chats, and this is your host, Jason D. Diesel Hammett, signing off.
This has been a No Surf Music Burning River Fireside Chat. This is your host, Jason D. Diesel Hammett, signing off. Remember, No Surf Music is your source for the best in Americana, alt country, indie rock, and more. For original reviews and interviews, visit nosurfmusic.com.